speaking as a football referee, you've only got a limited sort of armoury that you can use to deal with conflict and to resolve issues. So of course you have a yellow and a red card, you have a whistle. The biggest tool you've got is your personality, undoubtedly, and trying to develop those cognitive skills to just recognise those small changes in people's reactions or demeanour or behaviour that can signify that there's going to be some problems. I don't think I got better as a decision maker as a football referee. I just think I got better at reading people and anticipating the way that somebody was going to react. And I think that is consistent off the football field as well. I think, just recognising how an employee might be reacting to a situation which might be out of character. It might signify something's not right. It might be an indication of some sort of conflict between a couple of employees that you need to act quickly upon to resolve, because if you allow things to go on for too long, then you ultimately can't use your personality anymore. You've got to use the yellow or the red card, and that's not always a sign of a successful manager, I don't think. The best referees are the ones who could anticipate and step in before something happened. And I think that's the same for a manager or even a parent, just recognising the way that somebody's reacting, identifying what's likely to happen next, and then taking action, not being passive, having the courage to step in and do something. Well, one of the difficulties I think that you have when you're dealing with different people is trying to show that you are being equitable with everybody, but understanding you've got to deal with people differently. A lot of the conflict that I dealt with on the pitch came from people feeling that they weren't being treated fairly and evenly. I think the same applies to kids. If you've got kids at home, for example, one of the biggest things you'll hear is it's not fair. I've not had the same fair deal as somebody else. So it's about treating people fairly, but understanding you have to treat them slightly differently because different people react in different ways. So players would react in a different way to me. I knew that some players would absolutely respond to some sort of encouragement, some sort of verbal interaction. Just a smile would defuse some players, whereas other players, you just know that if you tried that technique, it would end up pouring fuel on the flames, and actually you'd end up with a higher sort of a level of confrontation. Sometimes not engaging at all was the right way. But of course, if you're engaging with someone, not with others, that can be seen as not equitable. So again, it's about understanding the best way somebody reacts, and then trying to show that you're being fair and even, and taking those opportunities to communicate that to whoever you're dealing with and whichever way you're dealing them with. The job that I did as a referee, some of the stages that I performed upon were huge, they really were. And for somebody like myself who started at the very lowest levels and took time to develop his skills and move up the pyramid within refereeing, sometimes you would find yourself almost pinching yourself, thinking, how did I get here? If you think too hard about the stage that you're working upon, maybe it can damage your confidence. I drew confidence from the preparation that I put in place, from the fact that I knew the laws of the game absolutely to fine detail. I knew the competition rules. I knew the players I was dealing with on the pitch. I knew that I had a great team as well. I could absolutely draw strength from the team that I had. If I went into that pitch with different assistant referees, I was less confident. If I went in with the same team that I'd worked with on a regular basis, I knew that we could deliver that team as a unit. And then I also used to reflect a lot on previous good performances, take strength from those, and also visualising before the game as well what you were likely to anticipate, and trying to anticipate problems that might come along in that game that you'd not encountered before, that might put you out of your comfort zone. So, for example, in the World Cup finals, we were exposed to the sound of the vuvuzela, which was a different noise, a different atmosphere in the stadium. We could prepare for that in our training session, so that when we did face it for real, it wasn't something that was going to put us out of our comfort zone. I think understanding the members of that team, the way that they tick, the way they react. I think thorough briefings. We had briefings in every single game. We didn't take anything for chance in terms of, okay, we've done it before, let's just do it again. I made sure that the team work was in place before the game by sitting down with the guys, looking at that particular game that we're about to take charge of, talking through some of the basics still, looking at some of the finer detail relating to that individual fixture, but making sure that we did things properly and that we didn't skip corners just because we've done it many times before. And I think any well-performing team, whether you're a pair of airline pilots or whoever you might be, it's it's worthwhile taking that time to do the basics, because they're the things that have made you an efficient team in the first place. So you deal with any sort of like history between the teams by being aware of it. One of the arts of being a good manager, being a good referee, is to have that awareness of what could happen, what has happened in the past, either involving teams or individuals, but keeping an open mind. It's quite a juggling act, really, because if you go into a game with a closed mind, because you've filled yourself with awareness of what's happened before or the antecedents of a particular individual, the way that he's demonstrated his behaviour in the past, and it's important that you are aware of that. If you go in there thinking that's the only way that person ever behaves, then you're setting yourself up for a fall, really, because you'll just prejudge and you won't base the decision on its merits. The way you can use that information is to be proactive, is to know where to look before something happens, to remember to pay maybe a little bit more attention to a certain character, because you know he's got the possible character trait that's going to cause you a problem. But if you just wait and something happens and then you automatically assume that's just the same as he always does, he's always a diver. A player who always dives can be fouled, of course he can. So of course you need to try to keep that open mind. But I'll be honest, it's not an easy thing to do, and it's something that you remind yourself of before the game. I think you learn to filter the feedback that you get in terms of the scrutiny that you're placed under. Yes, you can look on the internet, you can look on social media, you can find some nice things, and people I know in my line of work have become addicted to trying to find nice things that are written about them, either in newspapers or on the internet. That said, if you do that, you're going to expose yourself to lots of negativity as well, and many of the modern day platforms are used much more for negativity than positivity. If you like something, you might not comment upon it. If you feel you don't like something, you're probably more likely to comment. So again, you have to be selective about where you seek your feedback from. You have to be aware that a lot of the stuff that happens is inevitable on the job that you're doing, so it won't be personal towards you, it'll be towards the role. It doesn't mean you're wrong, it just means that people have an opinion and they want to express it, and they might be wrong. It might just be a matter of an opinion. Who knows who's right or wrong? So you have to select where you get your feedback from trusted sources who you know are going to help you develop as a person, as a team, and don't get too hung up about what somebody says on the internet, in a newspaper, on the TV. Yes, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but it doesn't mean that it should affect you going forward. There's certainly a responsibility on your shoulders when you're appointed to an important game, be it by FIFA or UEFA or the FA. You do carry that responsibility, that burden onto the pitch. I think most people strive when they have responsibility. I'm sure they do. I think it's something that makes people raise their game. I will tell young people all the time as well that if they're feeling nervous before a game because they are feeling responsibility to do well in an examination or on the football field or on any sort of sporting field of play, that's actually a good sign. That's something that's positive, because it's preparing your body to do something that's important to you. So responsibility is good, and it was one of the highlights of my career, I think, being able to take charge of games, high-profile, important games, to which I've been entrusted by the football bodies. I think you need to have some flexibility in your career path. I think things can happen that you can't foresee. I think you have to go in a general direction. You have to have a long-term goal. I would say that my career was full of ups and downs. If I look at where I started to where I am now, many ups and downs. But there was a general line of progression, I guess, to get towards the direction I want to get to. And yeah, again, you have to be resilient. We did some research about high-level sports performers and particularly high-level referees, and the thing that came out of all of the research that we did, the character trait that was across everybody who was successful, was mental resilience more than anything else. Getting back up after the knocks, understanding that mistakes do happen, they are simply part and parcel of life, and that the only way you'll never ever make another mistake is to not do anything, and of course that's not an option. So understanding that mistakes happen, learning from the mistakes, growing with them, and persevering. But I think, being flexible, being determined, being resilient, and not everybody can make it to the ultimate goal, but everybody can fulfil their own potential, I'm sure, provided that they've got some passion and determination, drive, and are supported by good people. innovate, expand, grow. If you stand still, you're just simply going to go backwards. So, always look at opportunities to make your game or your business better. And some things will work and some things won't work. But until you try things, you'll never quite know. So yeah, I think being innovative is absolutely crucial in growing any organisation that you're working with or for.